Hey, it's the end. The end of 2025. Welcome to the round 24 review, the final review of the season, as the Blues finish off in a way that they have not finished off a season, and that is by winning. The Blues win 13 goals 12, 90 to 8 goals 8, 56 for the Essendon Bombers. A mixture of emotions and a mixture of thoughts, a real contrast. On the one hand, relief, excitement, because of the clarity that's about to come. And then on the other hand, there's the disappointment and the sadness and the frustration to have committed to another year as a supporter and had to watch that unfold. That was awful as a sporting team. That was awful for a number of reasons. But look, I will touch on the game. It was I went to this game. Look, the expectation was finish strong. And one thing I'll give the club credit for, they said they were going to finish strong, and they gave us these catchphrases and these sentences about wanting to finish strong, and they definitely did that. And one thing that was definitely apparent this week and the last few weeks really is the attitude. There were more signs of positivity with the kids. Lockie Cowan. There were more signs of positivity with new guys who seem to have clicked or seem to have found their confidence. A guy like Francis Evans, I'm sure, will be spoken about over the next week or so. I guess a bit of a story of the year. I mean, you've got the guys at the top end that have been consistent all year. Cripps was okay. Found the minimum standard. George Hewitt was excellent. His minimum standard all year has been brilliant. And then ultimately it really quickly dissipated into, okay, we're finally here. The Bombers were gallant, that they were okay. I must say that the first quarter I thought there was a flatness to the game and a flatness to the crowd. The first quarter it felt like a match simulation of sorts. Bit of bruise-free footy for the most part, just making sure that the game was flowing. So it's really difficult to know how much stock to take into the game. But yeah, look, Carlton got on top, got in control, built a handy lead, and then, brought it home. Bombers kicked a few late in the fourth quarter, and away we went. And then I did make sure to take a moment just to look out over the MCG. I was sitting up on level 2, just on the wing, and just took a moment to. You have to, in a way, you got to appreciate it. Like, it's been a really interesting year from that standpoint. Like, yeah, it's disappointing, and we're supporters. It's been just so frustrating. It just seemed like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Off the field, board instability. Then you had the injuries, the ones that are not in your control. They've been calling them trauma injuries, so Achilles, ACLs, and the like. Then there's just like inconsistencies, poor performance, indecision on the field, off the field, and then the changing of the guard. And then maybe, pretty much, I would say since the CEO handover happened, I've maybe reflected on the fact that that's when some clarity's come, and that's when some assertiveness has come. And so it really quickly, in the space of less than 12 months, so if we look at, from January to now, it's really become the year of transition, revelation and then transition. And I did touch on that late last night. I will touch on that later in the video. But there's just something about the end of the season. I was excited and ready for this to happen, and I wanted this to happen. But now that it really smacks you in the face, it's just that reality of, okay, that uncertainty continues until you get to the trade period. The frustration continues as you watch finals footy. And I just don't know. Tom de Koning played his 100th game I didn't make too much of a fuss about it throughout the week. It's just been another one of those awkward situations. Not dissimilar to the way the crowd was last night and the energy in the crowd last night. It felt awkward at times. And then just watching the final pieces of him doing post-game presses, and then his speech in the rooms. I mean, we were sitting on the fan cams, we were unpacking it. It's almost like just tell us, and maybe he can't, maybe he genuinely doesn't know, but there is just this sort of feeling in my mind of, all right, can we just know either way? Even though we kind of do know because he hasn't made the decision yet. But then there's that question of that little bit of hope. Well, he's been playing, so maybe he hasn't told the club yet. I don't know. It's bizarre. Yeah, and this is the first time I can remember this sort of situation playing out the way it did, and the player waiting until literally the end of the season. And I guess if he leaves, it'll be the first time a player of note has gone in such a manner. So, yeah, like on the human element, I love Tom. Absolutely love Tom. I think he's such a great character. Anyone who's crossed paths with Tom and actually spoken to him would attest to that. His energy is contagious. And then, there's the Carlton supporter that I just want to know, like, what's going on? Want to go play for money? Want to go play for better opportunity? Whatever it is, like, could we just get some clarity around what is going to happen moving forward? There's just theories at this point. It's been a tough year for him. If he's staying or if he's going, regardless, it's just been, you can just sort of see its weight on his mind. Is that because he knows he's going and he genuinely cares for his club and his teammates? Or is it because he genuinely just doesn't know? I was so sure that when it was all said and done, he would stay. But I think if he was going to stay, it would have been announced by now. So I guess we'll just wait for the confirmation, as we always were supposed to. And yeah. What else did I like last night? I like the freedom in which some of these players played with. Billy Wilson and Flynn Young, two in particular. Wilson has played a couple of games at the level. Looked to just play with a bit more confidence, and I think Flynn Young as well. I felt like I needed to see just one more. I liked what I saw last week, and I felt like I needed to see him do it just one more time. And so, yeah, one thing Michael Voss mentioned in his press conference, and I think this is going to be a really important part of the year and a really important part of next year. So there was clearly disappointment this year, but they played a lot of kids this year. And he referenced the fact that, by playing who they played this year, next year it allows them as a coaching group to know clearly who can play at the level and who can't. And so, I'm going to assume there's going to be additions to this team, and senior players in particular will be coming into this team. And so there can't be favourites anymore. There really can't be. It really has to be on form and on performance. And I guess earlier in the year, it was like, we don't know if Matt Carroll can make it at the level. We don't know. He doesn't look so good in the VFL maybe. And it's like, can he make it there? I think Ashton definitely came into the level at the AFL early in the year. Looked a little out of sorts maybe, and so went back in. But I think you can see now that there's a role that he can definitely play. He can definitely fill it if he works hard and gets a good preseason in. I think Cooper Lord's definitely one you can trust to contribute at the level. Hudson O'Keefe, I think so. I don't know. I think so. There's flashes there. There's definitely something there. And so, yeah, Lockie Cowan is now no doubt a player that can play at the level and play at a really high level as well. So it's been a bit of that, a bit of trust earned by some of these young guys, which is important. And this next wave of Carlton will happen. I liked Sam Walsh and that he wanted to play out the season. I liked the way that he was managed. I liked, I liked that he didn't just let the season go on. And I thought that showed leadership. He spoke like a leader last week, but he showed leadership in the way that he applied himself and got back into the team. And, this year is going to be about Tom de Koning. Next year will be about Sam Walsh if he doesn't re-sign before the season starts. And so I hope that we're not going through this again. But at the same time, this is this is also just the reality of where the game is at, where the club is at. And the other reality is, if the club had its shit together and if it was well run, and if the list management was on point, and if the culture was on point, I don't think we would be having such situations. So it's a combination of factors. The club have nobody to blame but themselves for getting themselves into the predicament. There are some really unfortunate things that did happen this year that were out of a lot of people's control, particularly with the injuries. And it's a tough pill to swallow, to just be where the team was at the sort of at the end of last year, thinking, oh, it was just that last 5 to 6 weeks that undid the season, because they were dominant for the majority of last year. And then to just to think that, full pre-seasons into all these guys and we can get back there, and then for that to not be true in any way, shape or form, and it to be a proper capitulation as a club where you're forced to transition into a new wave of team. That's the part that shocked me the most. So my question to you, which I would like for you to unpack in the comments below, and I asked most people in the fan cams last night, what do you think 2025, like what will it go down in? Like what will the story be when it's all said and done? Like what is the meaning of it? Which is an interesting question, because it means nothing. Like none of this actually has true meaning. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But from the Carlton Football Club point of view, and in the story of this club, what do you think 2025 will be remembered for? I landed on, revelation, like the truth came out, and then the transition. I think that'll be it. Now, whether or not that means that this team will improve rapidly now that all the pieces are going to be a bit more clear moving forward, that remains to be seen. But yeah, apart from that, that's it. That's the last review. Yeah. Thank you for being here, of course. I don't know if I say it enough, but I really do appreciate what I have and what we have. The fact that I get to come here and chat and facilitate the conversation every week for, many, many seasons now, is a real privilege. And I appreciate everyone that tunes in, watches, subscribes, likes the video. I mean, if you're a member, that's crazy. Like you're giving up your hard earned to support the channel. I really, really, really want to say thank you to you. No matter what you've done to support, whether it's financially or just by watching, because that also does support. Really appreciate that. We now move pretty quickly into the next phase, which is, review phase. Player reviews. We'll do little mini exit interviews, so to speak. We have got a massive trade period to come. So, I don't know. I know that some of you, once the season ends, that's it. You tune out and you come back for the footy. I know that a lot of you like to stay tuned in for the trade period. Then you tune out. Actually, what do you do? What? How do you consume footy when it happens like this? Do you just plug out and then we see you in preseason, or do you like to stay in touch with trade period content and the draft and the like? But yeah, one thing's for sure, I'll be here documenting absolutely everything until one day we're documenting the Premiership Day and the win and the cup and the medals and the celebrations and the tears and the laughter. And then, there will be a time where we look back on these days and we say, look at us. Little did they know that it was just about to happen. Or little did they know that was so far away. I don't know, but we'll be here. Thanks once again. This has been the final review of 2025, and I'll see you soon. Go Blues.